Hey everyone, it's Michael Davis from Mira Scriptura. Today we're going to be talking about can you mirror read narratives? Now a lot of people think that if they do embrace mirror reading, that really you should only use it to mirror read letters such as the epistles of Paul. But I would disagree with that, and I say yes, you can not only mirror read narratives such as the Gospels, but really mirror read any book of the Bible. Now, I haven't mirror read every book in the Bible yet, but the ones that I have, I've been able to gain insight by mirror reading. So that's kind of my assumption until proven otherwise. And I just wanted to cover some things when mirror reading narratives today, because the approach and methods are going to be a little bit different mirror reading narratives than if you were to just mirror read an epistle. So most people, when they approach a narrative, they're such as the Gospel of Luke, they're really looking at, okay, if Jesus said something to the Pharisees, well, why did Jesus say such and such to the Pharisees? When that's really the wrong question. I mean, it's good to ask that question, but it shouldn't be the primary question. What you want to ask is, why did Luke write about Jesus saying something to the Pharisees? Why did he write about that to the church at that time? So what was the false teaching in the church at that time that Luke was writing these words of Jesus to correct the false teaching in the church at that time? So it's a little bit different approach than most people. It's kind of like Inception. If you've ever seen Inception, it's deals with a dream within a dream. And so there's the same thing with mirror reading a narrative. It's you got to look at it from another level. Okay, so I want to just show you an example from Matthew. It may not be the best example, but it is the one I've been thinking about recently. So we're going to be starting off in Matthew 1, and it's the first few verses, and it's just describing the genealogy of Jesus. And you can notice here that we have a few women mentioned in the genealogy, which is highly unusual for a Jewish genealogy. Usually only the men are mentioned. So the standard answer to the, why are these women in the genealogy is that, well, one of two things, or maybe a combination of two things. One, they're women, and Matthew wants to be inclusive of women in the church, letting people know that, yeah, women can be part of the church. Also, they're Gentiles, and so they want to be inclusive of the Gentiles. And obviously we see these two themes running throughout the New Testament, that the church is inclusive of both women and Gentiles. So there is some foundation to that, but I think there's some deeper aspects to it, and I want to go over those today. But even if that was the only aspect, you're still mirror reading the genealogy to do that, to say that Matthew is trying to be inclusive of Gentiles and women. And you're saying, well, there was a false teaching at the time that said, somebody was saying, hey, women can't be part of the church, or Gentiles can't be part of the church. And so that was the false teaching that Matthew was trying to encounter. So even if that was true, you're still mirror reading that. But I want to take a little bit deeper look at it and see what other similarities we have amongst these women. And the first similarity has to do with prostitution. And we have Rahab here, who was a prostitute, although that's debatable. The word translated prostitute, I believe it could have some other meanings. And then we have Tamar over here, who wasn't a prostitute per se, but dressed up as one to seduce Judah to get her pregnant. So we have these two prostitute-related women here, and we know that prostitution is an issue amongst the New Testament, and the aspect of that New Testament writers are trying to show that prostitutes, or at least former prostitutes, were to be included in the church. And so Matthew may be using these two women here specifically because they have some link to prostitution. The other similarity here, we have Ruth and also Tamar again is that they dealt with what's called levirate marriage. And levirate marriage was when the husband died, the wife would marry the husband's brother to carry on his lineage. Obviously, we don't really do that today, but back then that was the custom. So there may have been an issue in the church at that time that was dealing with levirate marriage, and we can see in let's see here. Yeah, one of the stories about the Sadducees asking a question of Jesus deals with this idea of what happens to a woman when she's marries multiple brothers. So and then there's a good article online here. It's on Google Books. There's a commentary here. I'll try to put the link in the video, but as a short area dealing with levirate marriage and how Paul may have been dealing with levirate marriage in 1 Corinthians, and when he talks about a concession of marrying, he's not talking about first marriages but second marriages, and really dealing with levirate marriages itself. So check that out if you get a chance. So I think that there were some levirate issues happening there, and there may have been another issue of women who were formerly married to Gentiles. We have here Bathsheba, who's not referred to as Bathsheba, but referred to as the wife of Uriah, who we know was a Gentile. So that may have been an issue there as well. So it may not just be simply being inclusive of women and Gentiles, but there may be some other issues going on as well that Matthew's including these women specifically for the purpose of countering some other false teachings at that time. So that's it for today. Next time I'm going to continue to look at Matthew or narratives in general, and using what I'm calling metaphorical logic. So be sure to check out that next video.